Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Dave's Top 3,000 Songs of the Rock Era. I'm your host, David Terr. As the title suggests, featuring my personal top 3,000 songs of the rock era from 1954 to 1999. And today I'm up to song number 2542, and that one is Stairway to Cleveland by Jefferson Starship. Um, I don't know how many guys are familiar with this song. It's a pretty crazy song. It was released. It was just released as a promo single, not as a commercial single, which is why it didn't chart. But it was also released on their 1981 album entitled Modern Times. And here's a picture of Jefferson Starship, along with their lead female singer, Grace Slick. She's third from the right in the background. She wasn't with them the entire time. As a matter of fact, I think she quit in 1978, but she got back together with them in 1981 for this album, and I think she stayed with them. They became, they had like three different incarnations. They were started as Jefferson Airplane in the 60s. They were one of the big psychedelic bands from San Francisco in the late 60s, and then they became Jefferson Starship in the 70s and even into the early 80s, and then finally they just became Starship in the mid 80s. I think they were a great band, each of their incarnations, but I've already featured a few songs by them, so I'm not going to give a detailed profile of Jefferson Airplane slash Jefferson Starship slash Starship, other than to say that I think they were a great band, and they lasted a really long time. Anyway, now I'm just going to talk about this song, Stairway to Cleveland. Like I said, it's a strange song, but I really like it. I mean, I remember when I first turned it on the radio when I was in college, and I remember my roommate played it a few times. I don't know if he really liked the song, but I did. And it's a very satirical song, and it's very fast. It almost sounds like punk rock. And, I don't like punk rock in general, but I do really like Jefferson Starship. And, it's kind of a fast rant, and they just mention a lot of different things. But there's kind of a, I don't know if you call it a chorus, but they're singing really fast, and then between verses, I guess it was Paul Kattner of the band. He yells out, "Fuck you! We do what we want." And it's an angry song. It's kind of a protest song, but it's mainly protest against. It turns out I didn't realize this until I just looked this up today. Apparently, this was a critique of Rolling Stone magazine because I guess Rolling Stone had panned their previous album, Freedom at Point Zero. I don't know what they didn't like about that album, but I don't always agree with Rolling Stone magazine, by the way. I think they just mainly get opinions of one of their chief editor, and I guess the editor who gave him a harsh critique. Well, I don't know his name, but yeah, it was Paul Warren, I think. The lyrics were overheard. I don't know if it was Paul Warren was a critic. He was actually a fellow musician. And he was the one that they heard. I guess it was Paul Kattner heard him yelling this. I don't know what the context was, but he was with a different band. I think he was with a backing band for Rod Stewart, and I guess they were upset. Their band was upset at, I guess, their manager or something, and I guess Paul Kattner of Jefferson Starship thought that was funny, decided to use in the song, and you can hear, some of the things they talk about. It's kind of interesting. It's not just about how they're critiqued as a band, but I guess a lot of it is, like they sing things like, "Why don't you sound like you used to?" I guess they changed their sound in the '70s as Jefferson Starship. They became more of kind of a mellow mainstream band. They started as more of a kind of a psychedelic and also kind of a political protest band in the '60s, and they didn't really stick with that image, I guess. And maybe that's why the Rolling Stone was critical of them. I don't know. But they mention a lot of other stuff, which I think is kind of interesting. They mention a lot of the problems that were going on in the late '70s and early '80s. They mentioned the economic price index, what you're going to do about it. They keep saying, what you're going to do about so and so. And I guess the reason they call it Stairway to Cleveland, they say, what you're going to do about Cleveland, which is kind of funny because I grew up in Cleveland. I was there from age 48, 1966 to 1970. Cleveland got a very bad reputation in the 60s and 70s. I mean, they were a very dirty city. They lost, they had used to be a big, I guess, a big industrial town. I guess they mostly made steel, kind of like Pittsburgh. But then a lot of their industry shut down. I think in the starting in the 70s, and a lot of people were out of work, and there wasn't really much opportunity there, and plus even when there was, they were a very dirty city. I mean, when I was living there, I think in the 60s, I think a couple times the Cuyahoga River had caught fire. So Cleveland, I guess it's kind of a joke, Stairway to Cleveland, because there was a big rock and roll song. I'm sure you guys have all heard it by Led Zeppelin called "Stairway to Heaven." That one's coming up much much higher on my list, by the way. I'm not going to say how high. A rock classic everybody seems to know, and this one doesn't sound anything like "Stairway to Heaven," obviously. And there's just other funny lines of the song, like "What you gonna do about Walter Cronkite?" And I thought that was funny because I think Walter Cronkite had just retired maybe the previous year. He was probably the best news anchor I've ever seen in my life. He told it like it was. He even said at the end of every broadcast, and that's the way it is, and it pretty much was. And of course, you guys all know we don't get much objective news anymore. It's all biased. You might as well watch the comedy news. But anyway, I guess that's pretty much everything I have to say about this song, Stairway to Cleveland. Like I said, I like it. I think it's a pity it wasn't released as a commercial single. It probably wouldn't have been aired, though, since they used the F word in it, which I've already used. Might as well say it again. Fuck. Yeah, fuck you. We do what we want. And I do what I want, too. So, anyway, so I guess that concludes my profile on Stairway to Cleveland by Jefferson Starship. Thank you for watching. Long live rock, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.